I'm with Nick Gomez, composer of the new film noir, which I'm really excited to talk about. Hollywood Grit. Nick, pleasure to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
So before we get to the movie and you composing all of these tracks and producing them as well, great stuff, by the way. I want to get back to some beginnings. When I was at UCLA back in '89, some dorm mate gave me a cassette tape. It said Miles Davis, Kind of Blue, and he said, "Hey, check this one out." I played it. I was 18 at the time, hooked on jazz since then. Want to know your beginnings? Obviously, since you're a musician, it wasn't just some rando giving you a cassette tape way back in the day. What started your love for jazz music?
Oh wow. I think my parents were huge jazz fans. They were going to the Lighthouse Cafe in the 1960s when it was legitimate jazz club and going to see Wes Montgomery and Mongo Santa Maria, Pancho Sanchez, like a lot of these Latin groups. And I grew up in a house full of, my dad was really into bossa nova and Stan Getz, and he made me watch Around Midnight with him with Dexter Gordon. And, I started on clarinet when I was 12 years old. So it was like, I I think it was like kind of my I think my dad saw like an opportunity to influence some music on me and show me things that he liked, which was really cool. And
Is that influence or brainwash?
I don't I don't think he saw it as a brainwash thing, but if it was, it certainly worked for sure. And I mean, I think coming up as a saxophone player, like I started on clarinet, moved to saxophone fairly quickly, and I think just making that transition to sax, there's just a bunch of things that these like Mount Rushmore historical jazz artists that you create for yourself, but are the things that you listen to that ultimately influence you. Like Kind of Blue by Miles Davis, like this timeless, amazing record, among other things. Giant Steps, John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley, just like a bunch of these, yeah, awesome influences.
Well, before we get to Hollywood Grit, you mentioned Around Midnight. I just recently picked it up on Criterion recently, and I saw it maybe when it came out on, actually not when it came out. I saw it on, I got a VHS copy, put it in,
Uh-huh.
saw it maybe a couple of times, and it's been almost, what, maybe 40 years, but it still sticks with me. Wondering when you're watching that with your dad, does this movie still stick with you? Because it's such an amazing film, the way it's shot, the music, Hancock, right? So just your thoughts on that movie now as an experienced jazz musician, looking back on that time, first watching it.
Yeah. Wow. That movie hits me like on so many different levels. On a personal note, I'm approaching, I guess, my sixth year of sobriety. So just seeing like that human element, when I was a kid, I didn't really relate to some of those scenes where his housemates are like diluting his wine and stuff and trying to keep him healthy because he's this amazing talent. And like I think about that movie a lot now as seeing like what my trajectory could have been to where it is now, all because of my decision to choose a healthy path in life. But just that idea of there's just so much magic in that movie with his character, Dexter Gordon, kind of like half playing himself, half playing this other character, doing that so well. Just he has this kind of like timeless sound on that tenor saxophone that is like no other. It's just it's like you're kind of like trying to it's like this like silky, foggy sound. You're trying to like see like where it's just so rich. He could play like one or two notes and you're just immediately hooked. And I think even with that, it kind of goes to my philosophy as a saxophone player, where it's tone kind of comes first over how many notes you can play and at what speed. And I think like being able to kind of extend those emotions through the horn like Dexter Gordon is able to do is just like a core principle to how I feel about performing music as well. So that movie hits me like on every level.
Nick, you're talking about tone and emotion. Was that
Yeah.
POV a way of playing, being a musician? Was that always your POV starting off, or were you more of a virtuoso? Was it more about how many notes you can play? Meaning you've actually grown as an artist over the years where you could actually say, hey, it's really about how you connect with people, not just how much of a virtuoso you are.
I think from 12 through 18, I was like really just trying to get as good as I could get as quickly as I could get. And then there was this turning point where something changed in the way I played, and my teacher in high school noticed I developed the sound somehow. Like all of a sudden I sounded different. And but it really wasn't until I went to Berkeley and I studied with this awesome sax player, Walter Beasley. And we both kind of share the same favorite contemporary sax player, which is Grover Washington Jr. We're both like huge fans. And Walter kind of shared that philosophy with me about connecting with the audience isn't about, all the fireworks display that you can put on with how quickly you can play a set of patterns or a passage or whatever. It's about being able to figure out how to play one note placed in the right spot that can really move an audience. And that changed my whole way of thinking. But yeah, it takes these like mentors and stuff. I think like some of these things are, I think that they can be discoverable, but it's like it helps to have like a mentor like that. And I was very fortunate throughout my upbringing in the music world to have good mentors like that.
You're talking about rich music. Can you just talk about the music in Hollywood Grit? Because to have, I don't remember the last time I watch movies for a living, so
Right.
I don't remember the last time I've actually experienced a jazz soundtrack. Maybe Mark Isham, is that how you pronounce it? For Afterglow, and then there's Kansas City for with Robert Altman, but there's very few and far between jazz soundtracks scored for films. How much does this project mean to you? That must be so awesome.
Oh my gosh. Ryan called me, I think in October of 2023. I was on the East Coast for a month. And I remember we were talking about a couple of projects he had going on. And then like in passing, it was almost kind of in passing in the phone call. And by the way, we're shooting this noir and you get to write a ton of jazz for it. You're gonna have a great time. And I'm like, okay. But I get the script. I get to hang out on set and I really get kind of like the imagery of what's kind of going on. And like I don't know, Ryan kind of gave me like this, dude, whatever you think is going to be best, do it. And now I just driving around listening to like really old records and trying to figure out what the moods are. It was amazing. And it was kind of like also kind of scary because although I have a big jazz upbringing, it is a big deal to present for me to present like jazz in these various kind of old school straight ahead styles, some big band elements, some things. And it was like, wow, I really got to pull from everything that I know how to do, really. So it was awesome. And to like kind of like one of my favorite cues are Grit has this night at the cemetery. I don't know how much I can reveal, but he's kind of lamenting and kind of walking home, and there's this cue with the trumpet, and I wanted to kind of deliver this in certain ways, like this small like jazz quartet kind of feel in some spots. And I really wanted to do it with live instruments. I feel like that was like the big thing. So a lot of the first third of the score, it's all live upright bass, live drums, piano. My friend Chris Lawrence came in and just did an amazing job on trumpet throughout the film, and it was cool. Just getting to involve people I've played jazz with over the years to come and record on this. We just feed off of each other, and in that way, in the spirit of jazz, I also it didn't like really micromanage the session in a way. Here are I kind of presented it like here's the lead sheet for the cue. They listened to my mock-up of it, and then it was like let's do this as you would play it in a thing. And I didn't really even have to like direct that at all. It was just like you on piano, do your piano thing with this. On drums, the drummer might present a completely different idea than I thought of with certain things. And that was important to me to retain the magic of this kind of improvisational thing in a way in each kind of like jazz cue.
Everything's coming up roses, just standard. Linda Pearl, what was that was must have been amazing just to see just that to see it put together as a cinephile. It was great to see. Was that a highlight for you as far as that whole Linda Pearl experience and just seeing her interpretation of just a great song?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So putting together a version of Everything Comes Up Roses was it was one of those things. I spent a lot of time putting that track together, and we went through a lot of iterations of it, finding the spots to speed it up, and then I think yeah, there's like a modulation in there, and it was so much fun and such a huge challenge to recreate that track because it is kind of a specific thing. It's like I couldn't like sometimes it's easier to flip a track on its head and start with a new different idea. But this one it was like trying to pay homage to say like the Bette Midler version of it, or of course the Ethel Merman famous original version of it, and trying to like blend those lines of like contemporary and old school and kind of deliver this palette for Linda sang over kind of a like a demo version of it that didn't have any live instruments on it yet. But she came in here and just I think we did 2 or 3 takes and she just it was just amazing to work to be able to just work with her. I think at the end of the song we initially because John, my songwriting partner, was here on that vocal session, and I think we had her landing on a lower note, and then it's like, "Hey, Linda, do you think you could pop that up to the thing?" She's, "Oh yeah, I could do that." And then boom, we do the take, and she just boom, seemingly zero effort. She's such a powerhouse. It was so great.
So along with the soundtrack, you also have, can you talk about your EP, the music that you're working on, as well as far as an expansion of your work? People can check out your EP. I think it was
Oh,
released several months ago. Can you talk about that?
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, so this is my I guess this is my fourth contemporary jazz album. It's called the Blue One. The joke around that, my first album was called Red Vinyl and it's like a red cover. And then my second album is like a mostly green cover. And so I just called this one the Blue One because I thought it would be fun. But yeah, so that's been a lot of fun. It was like a couple years in the making with that EP. I tend to take a lot of time on my personal jazz records. But yeah, we had 2 singles did really well. We're in the top 50 of the smooth jazz streaming charts. It's really exciting. The last song released on that EP is called Stimulus, and that's headed to radio this week, the same time as Hollywood Grit comes out. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah, yeah. I guess there's a lot of the same musicians from the movie are playing on this record. For sure, Josh on drums, Russell on bass, Russell Walters, Maggie Daniak on keys. Yeah, Chris Lawrence on trumpet, on a bunch of stuff. Yeah, so I'm pretty pumped about the record. It's been doing great, and yeah, we'll see how Stimulus does at radio, and another set of songs I'm working on now for next year as well. So
So here's the thing. I'm in my early 50s now. I went through a whole phase of just, I went by the musicians first, Coltrane, Davis, just as a lay listener who doesn't play any instruments. So I grew up with a bunch of jazz musicians, but then I went to different stuff. I got into hard bop, electric jazz fusion, bebop, so all that stuff. And now I'm, thanks to you, I'm listening to more smooth jazz. So as an initiate to this type of jazz, what can you tell me that you feel is overlooked regarding the form as far as smooth jazz goes for people who are getting into that genre of jazz?
yeah, I think sometimes smooth jazz, it's funny. It's kind of like for some, it's kind of a divisive topic as a genre. Some people love it, some people just hate it. Some people, I think there's also kind of like a general, I don't know, for some people, they're like, it's not like true to the art form enough. It's too formulaic. But I don't know. And I think like some of that is true. There is like definitely like this formulaic, like instrumental pop kind of aspect to it, pop R&B, instrumental, and in some ways leaning towards, dare I say, elevator or hot tub kind of stuff. But there's a lot of great contemporary smooth jazz out there that does kind of like push the envelope in certain ways. And I think for me, being like a big Grover Washington Jr. fan, I think there's a lot of us that kind of keep these like kind of core traditions at heart when we write. And I kind of feel like there's a lot of great smooth jazz artists out there. So it's that aren't in this, that aren't kind of writing the same track over and over again, that aren't like trying to just feed into the radio format formula of smooth jazz. And even then, like there's still some good stuff out there for sure. So I think it's like, if you're on the fence about smooth jazz, I would do a little, maybe pick up one of my records and see, maybe that's like, maybe I'm a good gateway artist into it, as I'm kind of a little more on like the funk fusion side of the spectrum, I think.
Okay, okay, so our listeners will pick up some of your work. Nick Gomez, what's the next artist or next couple artists within smooth jazz that they should take a gander at, or you would recommend? Or maybe jazz
Uh,
in general, I don't know. Whatever.
yeah, there's this great artist that I would say, another saxophone player that I admire, John White. He's out of Arizona. He's coming up. He's got some great songs. He's a great player. And then, yeah, I mean, I think like he's kind of like my favorite one right now. And who are some other up and coming people? It's so funny. Let me think. Who have I been listening to lately? John is the one that's on my mind, and I'm kind of
Okay.
drawing a blank at some of the other newcomers.
Can I make a left turn on that?
Yeah.
Because it's such an obvious question to ask you, but is there a specific jazz album that you go back to and from? We talked about beginnings, but it's something that
Oh, sure.
still has stayed with you. For example, I mean, I listen to kind of blue. You jokingly mentioned elevator music. Sometimes kind of blue is just my white noise, but I'll listen
Right.
to more. I'm more of a Miles Smiles guy or ESP, but I'm kind of blue is my white noise. What album is the one that just completely is just sort of part of your bloodstream, I guess?
Oh man,
It's a tough question. So,
dude, yeah, I mean, there's so many, and I feel like I went through a lot of different phases where I'm just like listening to the same record over and over again. I think one of those was like Headhunters, the first Headhunters record. Of course, Giant Steps. Of course, Kind of Blue. I think was that the Autumn Leaves? Was
is that any
that the
hard? John
no
Coltrane? No.
the Cannonball Adderley
Oh, okay.
album with Autumn Leaves on it? What was the name of that record? I couldn't remember if it was called Autumn Leaves or not.
Interesting.
But one that's been kind of like on regular rotation for me lately is this John Coltrane record called Ballads, and it's just all, I don't know if you know that record, but it
You mentioned hot tub music, so I mean that's more melancholic music, right? So it's very good stuff. Beautiful.
yeah, I love just driving around listening to ballads like on an overcast day in LA. It just soothes me going through the freeway system.
That's a great album.
So,
Before we go, Nick, anything else you want to say about Hollywood Good? I really love the movie. What is the most special part about being part of this project for you?
well, for me, this was like, and you may have heard this like through the other people you've interviewed on the thing. It was like you stepped onto set or met up with everybody in post, and you realize like you're making a movie with all your friends. All of us were pretty close, and if we weren't, we got close during this process. And it was just kind of like this like surreal aspect where it was like this total like creative like support system. Everybody was like supporting each other and lifting each other up, and it was like an extreme like positive creative atmosphere to be in. Geez, there was like, I mean, there was times when I was working on the score and maybe I'd get stuck, or I would like, I don't know. I remember calling Ryan up one day and I'm like, dude, I don't think I'm the guy for this. I was like feeling that down, and he was like, no, dude, you're the guy. It was fun. He would just lift me up and keep me going. And I can't imagine like I don't know. I can't imagine a scenario, because like in that moment I wasn't calling him as my boss. I was calling him as my friend. Like I'm feeling down, and I'm feeling like this artist vulnerability right now, and I need a pick me up kind of thing. And he was right there. But there was just like moments like this that were just completely special. Working on the songs with John and Sarah before they started shooting, that was like this like 6 week, we need to have the demos and final vocals on them before they start shooting. And that was like the biggest hustle, I think, of my career. And John would have an idea, Sarah would not have an idea, I would have an idea. And then we'd come in for a day and be like, okay, we can only do two things today. What are they? We'd come together, finalize lyrics on things, kind of patch things up. I'd start working on the tracks. And it was just this crazy, I think like the insanity of it made it like super fun. There was like just this thing of, well, I guess pressure makes diamonds, and we're gonna find out what they look like. But yeah, to be long-winded,
Oh,
my apologies, but yeah, yeah.
yeah. Thanks again, Nick, for your time. And what's it like to know that after watching the film and seeing all the music put together that you were the right guy for the job? Have you been able to actually look in the mirror, or just pat yourself on the back yet, and then seeing what you've
I,
done?
I think when Ryan and I did our final review of everything before I sent everything off to the mixer, we it was like a hugely emotional time. I think this is absolutely the best music I've ever written in my life, and I really stand by that. And I'm just like, I couldn't be more proud of how everything came out. And yeah, I love it. Yeah, you have those moments where you get a little insecure about what you're doing and you're not sure how things are going to be received. But I think by the time I finished it and I was able to take that step back and look at it, and yeah, I'm really proud of this movie and I'm really proud of the music in it. And my hope is like that the audience really, I hope it does its job and connect the audience to the story and the feel and the whole vibe.
Nick Gomez, composer of this wonderful film called Hollywood Grit, and also a maker of so many albums, which I'm going to listen to down the road as well. So
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's a
thank you so
pleasure
much.
meeting you, and thank you for having me on your program.
Yeah, good luck with your film and continued success with your music.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.